National Broadcasting Commission is warning broadcast stations against using their platforms to instigate violence and disunity in the country. NBC Director General Balarabe Shehu Ilela spoke at the opening of a nationwide sensitization forum on political broadcasting ahead of next year's general elections. He said any broadcaster who circumvents the code of conduct will be sanctioned.
Today, we are here to underscore the huge responsibility bestowed on the broadcaster to guide the process. We also use this forum to speak to the concerns of the other critical stakeholders, to allow the broadcasters to do their job well without putting them under undue pressure, as this could threaten the success of the election we are also desire. Remember that broadcast stations are held responsible for any breach. The stations shall therefore assume and accept editorial responsibility. I also use this opportunity to remind broadcasters not to allow any form of hate speech, fake news, derogatory or divisive remarks, and any incendiary broadcast on their platforms.
Political parties, candidates and their supporters, as well as the media, have a responsibility to operate within the confines of the law and the provisions of the Commission's regulations and guidelines. Issue-based campaign is essential for safe electioneering. In turn, this will create the atmosphere for the successful deployment and conduct of all electoral activities. Campaigns should be devoid of hate speech, abusive, intemperate or slanderous language, insinuations or innuendos likely to provoke violent reaction.
The challenge for us all in this election cycle is how each of us will do our bit to keep out, identify, and sanction under the law those who are bent on using money and other means of corruption and compromise to illegally manipulate the electoral process and predetermine the election outcomes.
Forthcoming elections. In the light of the foregoing, the silent message is that national interest must supersede every other interest. It is therefore incumbent on members of this forum to embrace a responsible reportage that will place great premium on the security and unity of the country.
Well, for an in-depth discussion on the latest in the political scene, Arise News Director of News and Politics Editor Sumner Sambo joins us now. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight tonight. I'm going to kick off clearly with the statement from the PDP presidential campaign spokesperson, Dino Melaye. And he says everyone will be on board in a couple of days. Last week, we were wondering how possible that would be, especially with the statements coming from Nyesom Wike, and his team. And it seems Atiku has really moved on. What do you think is going to play out here?
Yeah, I mean, Atiku has no choice than to move on. It's very clear right now that Wike is not with him. And based on what we've always seen in previous elections, this is not new. I mean, even Atiku himself can be said to be guilty of the same issue that Wike is doing at the moment because, former President Olusegun Obasanjo always had problems with him. He didn't back him. He was a PDP presidential candidate. Don't forget, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua was there at some point in time. It looks like the backup wasn't there so much for him by Atiku. And then, of course, eventually you had Goodluck Jonathan too, then as president, and then, of course, presidential candidates. All of these three gentlemen in one way or the other who were former presidents under PDP will share some experience of the administration or times with you and tell you that Atiku himself failed at some point in time to give them maximum support because he was busy moving from one party to the other when they needed his support the most. So I think
has been used against him.
Yeah, so if Atiku has discovered that Wike is not willing to go with him, I mean, it's just like flipping it the other way. I mean, he is also saying that he just has to move on. But it's very, very clear at this point in time that PDP needs to come together. They are still wooing Wike, and that credit marks actually go to Atiku Abubakar. Despite all we are saying, he keeps on encouraging members of his team to still talk with Wike, to still seek his support and all of that. It's left for Wike to decide to support him if he feels like or not. But I mean, there's nothing absolutely wrong with what Wike is doing. PDP is used to that sort of politics.
Nothing wrong with it?
Yeah, I mean, in the politics of PDP,
okay.
in the politics of PDP, Atiku is a veteran of such game. And so if Wike is doing the same thing, I mean, he himself will just have to move on.
All right, let's move to Ohanifere. Some are already calling this a marriage of convenience. Some critics of the alliance say it's for selfish reasons and not altruistic, ones, while those who support are saying, look, it's for justice, equity, and fairness. What's your take, and how far can this Ohanifere actually go?
Well, Pa Ayo Adebanjo has spoken just like the way, I mean, there's this autobiography book of his that he titled Telling It As It Is. It's almost the same way he's saying it as it is right now. This is the sort of support that we expect Nigerians to be, expressing when it comes to election. I mean, one segment of the country saying that, look, if a candidate comes from another segment, irrespective of religion or his ethnicity, yes, they are willing to back him as a socio-cultural group. But then, if you interrogate the Afenifere that Pa Ayo Adebanjo is promoting at this moment, you hear people saying that he's promoting an individual cause, because Afenifere didn't meet as a body to take a decision. So it's his own decision. When did the decision of the leader of Afenifere become the decision of Afenifere? So what some people will criticize that decision will be that to say that Pa Ayo Adebanjo has been using the name Afenifere while Afenifere doesn't sit in council to take a unanimous decision. And if you had listened to what the Tinubu campaign organization had kicked against this sort of decision by Pa Ayo Adebanjo, that's what they were trying to say. Now, is what Ayo Adebanjo doing good? Yes, I'll tell you that that's the sort of rhetoric. But if you look at it within the context of the Southwest, I can tell you that Pa Ayo Adebanjo is under heat right now from a lot of people within the Southwest, because if Afenifere is meant to promote the Yoruba people, the Yoruba nation, and you have a leading presidential contender who is from the Yoruba nation, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, and you have Afenifere leader supporting a Peter Obi in this instance, then it looks like there's a problem. But what he's doing is actually in the interest of the nation. This is the sort of rhetoric, because if Afenifere has identified someone who promotes federalism, fiscal federalism, like Afenifere has been promoting over the years, promoting the issues of restructuring, promoting the sort of conversations that we need to have on whether we should go back to unitary, we should go back to the sort of federalism we inherited of the 3 regions, and then later on the Midwest region that was added, where regionalism reigned supreme, or we should continue with the unitary federalism that we are having. Then, of course, based on what they've always projected, it looks like the person that they've endorsed now in the person of Peter Obi seems to be the person that's carrying that sort of ideology forward, which is to go back to the 1964 Constitution, which they've been agitating for.
Well, how far that comment is going to go and what impact that's really going to have in the coming weeks, we're all going to have to wait to see what plays out there. Right. But then going back to Atiku's advisory council or committee, what do you think informed the decision behind the pick that he put together? Do you think that's the right pick? How significant do you think that's going to play out for him this campaign season? Yeah,
I mean, it's a very good pick, having 2 former Senate President, Pius Anyim, and then former President Bukola Saraki being on the advisory team as special advisors. Then, of course, you have others going on, including the former national chairman, Uche Secondus. I mean, Uche Secondus' presence there as a technical advisor will actually tell you that, look, he has decided to call Wike's bluff finally. Because, don't forget, it was Wike that eventually had to look for a way for Secondus to be pushed aside. The thinking then for pushing aside Secondus was that they will have a northern chairman, national chairman, that will be there while they go around shopping for a southern presidential candidate. And so despite the fact that Secondus has several misgivings as about how he was pushed away, nonetheless, Atiku bringing Secondus back has not given, that sort of a push to the calculation then that was being seen by Wike that Secondus needed to be pushed away because he was
if he was going to stand any chance.
Because Secondus was advancing the cause of Atiku Abubakar while he was the national chairman. It's one of the sins that he committed. But if Atiku is bringing Secondus back as a technical advisor, isn't that like almost saying that he's the national chairman but outside the national working committee of the party? So because his
and he
own
has
designation,
a lot of experience,
his own designation, and then having witnessed, the 2015 presidential election, 2019 presidential election, I think Atiku is trying to send a very strong message that I can use your brother against you if you don't want to work with me.
Okay, let's go back to the Obidati thing. The points being made by Pa Ayo Adebanjo, are they valid? I mean, when it says, look, the Southeast really has not had a go at it, as far as presidency is concerned. The Southwest has had it. 8 years of vice presidency and all of that. I mean, really. But is it not too late in the day to be actually pushing
that's a very important point you just made.
This agenda?
Yes, these are the soundbites that we actually are supposed to be hearing. Is the Southeast alienated? Yes. Is this similar with the Northeast? Yes. So if you go into the politics, for example, of the PDP, you see that Atiku keeps on saying that he has a right to this presidency because since Tafawa Balewa, the Northeast has never produced any president. Now, if you look at the Southeast too, since the First Republic, when we had Nnamdi Azikiwe as president, he was just a ceremonial president, and then, of course, the military head of state, Agu Ironsi, we've never seen the Southeast coming forward so much, apart from the Second Republic when we had Alex Ekweme. Now, is it the time for Nigerians to actually consider giving the Southeast a chance? Yes, I will tell you that because Nigeria started this federation on a tripod. We had the Eastern region, the Western region, and of course the Northern region. Now, if the Northern region has produced presidents, the Western region has produced president, why is it that the third leg of that tripod, which we used to start the federation, has not produced a head of state, a civilian president? Then something is actually wrong. And then, of course, we added the Midwest region. Now, in all of this, if you look at what Pa Adebanjo is also saying, you also criticize him and say, why is he not saying that it's all Eastern candidates that should be promoted? Why is he just restricting it to Peter Obi and endorsing them? If we have Peter Omiadi, another Peter, who is the Abga presidential candidate, why, and then of course like about 2 or 3 other ones in similar parties. Yes. So why is it not saying that Afenifere should adopt the stance that whoever emerges as president from a Southeast extraction is the one that they are going to support? Why are they narrowing it to Peter Obi? That's where some of the critics will actually get some of these things right by saying that, look, Pa Adebanjo is on a mission and he's going into unfamiliar territory and is only left to, elders like that to see how he's going to escape what would look like a very strong and antithetical forces in the Southwest that will stand up against him for not supporting Tinubu.
Well, we'll see how far it goes.
It's a really interesting month ahead.
Oh, you can say that again. Political editor, Arise News, Sumner Sambo. Thank you very much, as always.